12:01. Let's give folks another minute here and then we'll get started. I don't want to wait too long because I want to be respectful of the people who are here and tuned in. Miss Courtney, thank you for being here today, facilitating. I appreciate it. How many people do we have with us today via the internet?
Yeah, 34.
34, all right.
Sorry, so hard to be here.
It's okay, come on in. No, I was just saying how we're waiting for folks who are needing a little bit of time. It's okay. Construction, new ways of getting here.
Working in facilities.
Yeah.
That's the answer.
That too, sure. Rolled ankles, that's my excuse.
I wish. Put me on my misery.
All right. All right, let's get started. Well, thank you everybody for being here. First of all, I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for tuning in and for coming in person. We really, really appreciate the support for this series. I am working with Jessica Derhake, still working on that even though I've known her for years. We are working together in conjunction with Human Resources and the Center for Human and Organizational Potential, otherwise known as CHOP, to bring you content that is going to help you live a better work life, live a better life outside of work, to perform better, to live better, to experience greater joy, and in this case, better work-life integration. So Jessica, thank you for being here today. She's going to be my color commentator. She's going to be adding in her expertise and her knowledge and her wisdom as I go through and lead this presentation. I do enjoy comments. I do enjoy questions. If we get a little too deep into the question or the comment, I may ask us to pause and go to the end of the presentation so I can get through the content. But otherwise than that, feel free to raise your hand and ask some good questions. That being said, these sessions are being recorded. We are putting them up on the Hive. We have plans to just transcribe them and create content from them so that if you want to revisit it or if you want to pass this on, you have that opportunity because again, CHOP and Human Resources is looking to create content that people can easily access, easily consume, and have many, many different ways and opportunities to develop as humans and as professionals. So again, I thank you for being here. And let's get rolling. So the first thing that I think we need to do, and I'm really a big fan of this if you know me, if you've gone to some of my other sessions, is reflect, right? Because if we're going to reflect and we're going to more so work on our work-life integration, we've got to think. We've got to think about what in our life, right, is separated, what needs to be integrated, what's going well, what's not going well, what do I need to prioritize, what do I not need to be prioritizing, et cetera, et cetera. So I'd like you to think about something in your life that's related to the work life that you have, your personal life, right, and everything in between that fulfills you. One thing that you engage in as a person that gives you purpose, right, that allows you to feel gratitude, that allows you to feel like you are serving, whatever the case might be, but most importantly, that gives you fulfillment, that fills your cup, that gives you energy, right? Think about one thing in your life that you engage in that does that. And conversely, I would ask you to please think about one thing in your life that you feel could use more improvement, more attention. For those of you who may be struggling with the content, for example, let's say that working out, taking care of yourself, eating well, spending time meditating or walking or swimming or doing yoga or knitting, these things fulfill you. They feel good. You feel like you're serving yourself and others by doing it. Those are great things. And conversely, if you need to give more attention to fitness, if you need to give more attention to spending time with those you love, those are the things that you might want to write down.
Those were exactly what I wrote down, by the way.
Oh, look,
Are you
and I
cheating?
was not cheating off of you. Yeah, no. All right. So this exercise, now that it's completed, and hopefully you've got something written down, is a great way to set a foundation for the presentation that we've got here today. And the first thing that is important to understand is what truly work-life integration is all about, right? Work-life integration is really about blending the activities that make up your work life and the life that you have outside of work, whether it be your family responsibilities, your hobbies, your interests, and the emails, the phone calls, the projects, the things that you think about late at night or that wake you up scared, right, in a cold sweat at 2 a.m., 3 a.m., whatever the case might be. It's about being able to give your attention in the right way, in the way that you want, and not just balancing them, but being able to do both so well, work and life, right, that you don't feel overwhelmed, that you don't feel like it's too much for you to handle. In fact, it's about feeling like you are correct in what you're giving your attention to. It's about gaining alignment. And here's the thing, the reason this presentation is not work-life balance and it is work-life integration is because work-life balance is not achievable. It's my opinion that work-life balance is not achievable, okay? Work-life integration really is. And in today's society, with the demands and the access to technology and the opportunities to communicate that technology affords us, lines and boundaries of communication, for example, are getting more and more blurred, right? How many people here have been on a vacation, right, while they're working for this institution or another, and they get an email or a text message from someone who knows you're on vacation, and they need a response now? Anybody ever have that? Absolutely, absolutely. Now, can something be said about etiquette, about faux pas, about do's and don'ts? Yes, absolutely, because it is your vacation time and you should take it, and I get that. And we're going to talk about boundaries in a little bit. However, it still requires us to understand that work-life integration means that we have the ability and the opportunity then, if we have the right mindset in the way we think about things, to navigate them more fluidly, more easily, and answer that email, make that phone call, and get back to the beach, get back to the golf course, get back to sleeping. Whatever it is that you do on vacation. I like to sleep and read, which is not cool because my wife, she likes to be active. You know, she's up 7 a.m., let's throw open the drapes, we're late, we gotta get going. That's her, that's not me. So I'm working on that, I'm working on integrating it. So we'll get there. Now, once you understand that work-life integration is about the balance of both work and life, it's about bringing them together and doing them both well, and that it's not about making sure that you have equal amounts of time to balance the scales in each, you can set yourself free. Because what goes along with wishing and not achieving the amount of time that to balance that you should give to your family, to your house, to your garden, to your pets. What emotions have you felt before?
Guilt,
Guilt. What else?
sadness,
Sadness.
disappointment,
Disappointment. keep going. I'm about to cry. Let's go. I'm in the moment, right? I'm feeling
This feels
it, right?
like therapy.
Guilt, shame, disappointment, and disappointed in myself, right? Fear. What happens if my, son or daughter, they end up resenting me because I was always working, right? Okay.
Or just anger.
Anger at yourself. Anger, what could happen, right?
Defeat.
Defeat.
Get,
Right.
get to the point where you're like,
I'm done.
Yeah.
I got nothing left.
Soulfully exhausted.
Soulfully exhausted. Your soul is tired.
Yes.
You're burnt out.
Yes.
Absolutely. I get it. I really do. I've cried taking out the trash before. Not because I took it out or I had to, but because I remembered to do it. And we were going to actually leave for school on time. Right? The overbearing, crushing weight of your responsibilities, right, can really make us feel negative, especially when we feel like we're not doing what we were meant to do or need to do. So the next thing that you think about is, well, how do I view, right, what the balance actually should be? And if you can first remove the word balance from your vocabulary and think about how I can integrate and give more quality over quantity to the right things in the right order, how much more free we can actually be. How much easier we're going to be on ourselves. Because at the end of the day, right, those feelings, what they do is they trap us, right, in a prison of our own making. They trap us. You are guilty, you are afraid, you are angry, you are ashamed, you are disappointed. That's a dark place to be. But what's interesting is that we have the key to release ourselves from that self-made prison. And Jessica made a good point about how sometimes we might not even know we have the key, and if we do know we have it, we don't know how to use it. Because we've been living from this way of behaving for our whole life. So sometimes you need to go back to, well, how do I actually use the key? And we're going to get into that right now.
And can I just add
Absolutely.
to something? I wanted to highlight something that you said because I think it's so important. The phrase gaining alignment.
Yeah.
Because, like you said, when I think about work-life balance, I'm thinking about switching gears completely from work mode to home mode. And that's a difficult thing to do, especially when you've been going all day at work. And then you walk in at home and you start to, at least I do, start to bark at my family like they're, employees. They need to go do things. And then that guilt hits, but it ties itself to the thing that's actually the most important because I know that's where I'm failing. So now I've got this guilt and all the negative feelings tied to the half of the balance that actually needs more emotion from me, my home life. So I really like this concept of gaining alignment because there's no switching gears. It's just living your life and doing so in alignment with your values.
That's it right there. So living in alignment with your values allows you, right, to then more clearly prioritize that which is going to help you feel the way that you want to feel, right? It's going to bring you that joy and that fulfillment that you want and that you need in doing the things, even if you can't do them as much as you would like to. So when you are aligned and your values are, for example, clearly defined, like family is a value. Spending time with my family, improving my relationships with my family members is something that I value, right? Now, we know that it's valued, so it's a prioritization. This prioritization means that it's the number one thing that I want to do when work is over, even if I arrive home at 5 or 6 or 7 or 8. Because remember, it's not necessarily always about quantity, it's about quality. Okay? So how do I show up? How do I free myself before I show up at 8 p.m. so that I can tuck my kids in, make sure they brush their teeth, sometimes brush my teeth with them, and then read them that 15-minute story and talk about their day? How do I show up, right? Because the way I show up for that 25 minutes of interaction means that the quality can be great or it can be not so great, okay? The next thing is, if I value something and I have a priority that is number one, how do I protect it? So it's important, if you are to have good work-life integration, that you set boundaries. And it's not that these are unbreakable boundaries, but they are boundaries for a reason. And you guard what you value and what you prioritize by using these boundaries, and only let certain things pass. And that's why I use the example of the vacation, right? The vacation is a boundary. I am resting, I am refueling, I am spending some time with the people that I want to prioritize, I am getting as much quality and fulfillment as I can out of this. But if there is a true emergency, right, you can call me and I will answer and I will email. That is the boundary, and that is how people can get past it. But you have to be clear and specific, most importantly, with yourself. If you feel that you are working at max capacity and you are now heading into the 60s in terms of hours per week working, that might be a boundary that you want to set for yourself.
How do you set that though when your leader says it doesn't matter? So like, because you mentioned that before, your control of that perception or that expectation, and you also mentioned that we've had this key our whole life to release ourselves from this prism of behavior. My entire life, I've never had this problem. I've had a beautiful, integrated work life, just essence of myself. I can't explain it. It was never a problem until I came here. Mm-hmm. And then I log 105 hours easy. So when you work salary, I thought is I don't care. You're sick, I don't care. You're still going to answer. You're still going to come in. Doesn't matter if you're on vacation. Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. We work as much as it takes to get the job done. And even if my limit, my boundaries here, because I have a 5-year-old and a 10-year-old at home that I have to still be mommy for. He's not even in kindergarten yet.
Yeah.
How can I set a boundary when the person above me says, there is no boundary?
Thank you for having human resources here.
That's the problem. I mean, that's really the problem.
Sure,
A couple of things we can take offline and discuss, but I wanted to talk about something I actually read very recently about boundaries, and it might not be profound to anyone else, maybe it was just news to me, but I was reading that the definition of a true boundary does not control someone else's behavior, and in fact does not require them to agree. A true boundary only governs your own behavior. So what that can look like is if someone is behaving in a way that's not appropriate, whatever that is, you have set your boundary that they will not have access to you if they are going to behave that way. Or, in this example, if you're asked to do something that is inappropriate, outside of what the expectation should be for work, then your boundary is, I'm not going to do that. And we can talk offline about direct orders and whatnot, but at a certain point, you have the agency to enforce your boundary in a way that just removes that person's access from you. Mm-hmm. But it's got to be based on your behavior. Mm-hmm. So if this person does this, I'm going to do this, and that's my boundary.
That makes sense.
Is that helpful?
Yeah, I was just curious. I wrote that statement. It was profound when you said we've had this our whole life, this key of this behavior for our prison that we're caught in. But I didn't have that, David, until I came here. I had never had a problem with controlling that behavior or being locked within a prison. Prism. It was here.
Sure.
Here. So sometimes you have to analyze all of the eclectic variables that make up who you are and realize that there is a correlation specifically to one change. So maybe I was never equipped with the key because I've never had the exposure to need the key.
That's deep.
Yeah.
That's deep.
Hence my word, what did I say? Exhausted or lost or...
Soulfully.
You have a key somewhere?
Yeah.
I was just curious. Sorry to interrupt.
No, I feel like that's enriched our conversation here, and that was
I think
good
there's a
thing to
much
bring
larger conversation sometimes for these trainings that are offered to employees. They should almost be mandatory for high leadership. It's people management. When your people are suffering, you lose.
Sure.
So.
Sure.
Yeah.
When I speak of the prison that we put ourselves in, it's a mental prison, right? Mm-hmm. And I have learned over the course of my career and life that the way that we speak to ourselves And what we speak to ourselves about, the thoughts that we have, can absolutely impact the way that we feel. And if we change the narrative, if we change the speech, if we change the story about scenarios, relationships, if we change the way that we view people, then we feel different, right? So for example, you ever get mad at someone and you've never talked to them about it? You know, they slighted you, maybe in a way that they didn't even know they slighted you, and enough time has gone by that you've had enough negative conversations with yourself about this person that you've got a whole story. You've got a whole arc, a history, character origin, right? Well, I'll tell you who they are, right? Because of this, this, and this. Oh, and they took the last donut. See, selfish, narcissistic. I told you, I hate you, right? Boy, right? That is what I'm talking about here, right? So, when you are working 104 hours per week, it, without a doubt, is difficult to say things like, I'm serving a higher purpose. I am fortunate enough to have the capacity, the passion, the love, the dedication, the work ethic to do what I need to do to make sure that things continue to run here, because I am the linchpin of this group, this team. It is hard, but thank God I have, or whoever or whatever, I have what I need in order to serve, to live my purpose in my position. And that's not to say that it's right or wrong for you to be in that position, but the conversation, right, will allow us to step at least a little bit out of that mental prison that our thoughts can sometimes create for us. And learning to use the key is learning to speak appropriately, or even appropriately is not the right way to say it. Well, to speak in a righter way about what's happening to us. I once heard a TED talk given by a Catholic priest from Scotland, and he talked about the true source of happiness. And it was pretty profound. Now, I think that happiness is without a doubt very, very complex, right? And really what he was talking about was how to experience joy consistently, because that's what joy is. Joy is always with us. Happiness ebbs and flows. But he said the secret to happiness, and therefore joy, is gratitude, right? Being grateful for what you do have. And when you're exhausted, and when you feel you're being taken advantage of, and when you are grumpy for rightful reasons, it's hard to be grateful. It really is. But if you can connect with something small that you're grateful for about the scenario, about the situation, it acts as a seed, right? And our ability to flow and experience and be fluid with what's happening to us really does improve almost exponentially. The priest goes on, the speaker goes on to talk about how the person who has the cars and the house and the career and the wife and the clothes and the keys to this and the watches and all these wonderful things that sometimes society tells us makes us happy is many times very unhappy, right? Because we know, we've heard that money doesn't buy happiness. It buys the opportunity for us to sometimes experience some level of security, well-being, and happiness, but it doesn't cover all the bases. Yet then you see, and we know this in our personal lives, and we've seen it in the news, that many people who lack what this particular person that I was talking about previously has are much happier. Some of the happiest people on earth, right? They might not have a 14-bedroom mansion. They have a one-room hut that's made of grass and tin or mud. Yet the smiles on their faces and the joy being surrounded by their family with the meal that they have, right, with the clean water that they get to drink, is unmatched and maybe never experienced by the person who doesn't experience that life. So the mental game is probably one of the most important things. And that's not to take away the external factors that affect who we are, how we work, how we live. I'm not saying that you can think your way out of a workplace harassment or abusive relationship. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that in general, we have the capacity to think our way into experiencing more joy, more happiness, more fulfillment, and more integration. So the key is, what are my values? What do I value in my life, right? I value quality time with my family. I value sleep. I value the ability to do my job at 100% capacity, okay? And what are the priorities then, right, that I need to do or look at in order to make sure that these things I value are getting the quality time that they need? So if I value sleep and I value being the parent that I want to be and the employee that I want to be, well, that means that I have to prioritize a sleep routine that lets me get the 6, 7, or 8 hours I need in order to be well, to be healthy, to perform. If I value showing up the right way, that means that I cannot come home hangry, right, with low blood sugar when I walk into the house when my son or daughter is ready to go. So I have to prioritize appropriate, healthy, glucose-rich snacks, bars, drinks, whatever it is that I need to do. Does that make sense? Right?
Yeah,
Go ahead.
David, I feel like that kind of brings us back to the boundaries discussion because, and I don't know if this is the same for others, but for me, I know that one bar of my prison is my expectations and standards for myself.
Yes.
And it prevents me from setting appropriate boundaries because, you know, for example, I want to be a helpful person, which makes it very difficult for me to say no, even when I know that I should say no, because I'm holding myself to the standard of always being that helpful person. And it's very hard to kind of ignore or rewrite those standards in a healthier way because it indicates that I am valuing myself on external things instead of internal.
That's deep.
It's got a little heavy there.
Yeah, it does. But this is heavy stuff, right? And the reason I think that people don't get the work-life integration that they want, that they need, that they aspire to have, that they wish they could have, is because they don't have the deep thoughts, the conversations, the reflections that we're having now. Mm-hmm. We go about doing our absolute best with what we can do, right? And then because we don't think the right things, we don't prioritize the right things, because we don't have a plan, because we don't set SMART goals, we never get there. Mm-hmm. So it's this downward spiral. Please, Janae.
I think it's hard spinning from what you're talking about too, David, is we do these things that Jessica's talking about and we try and identify them, and then what you're talking about comes along, and when we're surrounded by people who haven't done that work as well, and so their expectations are different, their boundaries are different, it's really hard to keep ours in alignment and then not spiral into worrying about, well, what are they thinking? What judgment have they passed? What's my evaluation going to look like? And kind of get caught up in that negative tornado of thoughts because not everybody else is having those deep thoughts and trying to do that work.
And you know, I'm not so sure about the laws, but I do believe that there are boundaries to what a salaried employee can work.
Yes, there are.
So like hours per week, like yes, you are salaried, but once you start doubling the hours per week, things get kind of hairy. Am I correct in saying that?
You are correct.
Absolutely, right?
It's a little bit of a longer conversation, but we can talk about that, yeah.
So the tools then become to set boundaries for yourself that others are to honor, but most importantly you honor, are conversations and sentences that sound a little like this. So-and-so, while I am happy and dedicated to work on this project and want to see it be successful and get out of the red zone, out of the problem area that we're experiencing as soon as possible, I'm not able to give that my attention at this time until tomorrow at this time. if I'm to give it the attention that it needs, if I'm to be the best that I can be for it, I need to now sign off and give my attention to those things that are going to fuel me.
Yeah, I think it's tough when you're classified incident commander and everything's health, life, safety. You don't have a choice.
Incident commander is tough,
Yeah.
right?
It's
Because
a different kind of role. It's
if
a
an
different
engine
kind of
blows up,
mentality.
that's an incident. You're the commander.
A fire alarm goes off.
Mhm.
Yeah. It doesn't matter. 2 a.m., 4 a.m., middle of your lunch, you can be pulled out from the middle of your lunch break to go handle something.
Sure.
So there is no boundary when it comes to being 24/7, 365 response.
So there are conversations then that are had. I am only able to give so much.
Yeah.
I'm, number one, concerned with safety, and I would like to have a discussion about what it truly looks like for us to be truly safe,
Yeah.
right, in terms of coverage. Because here's the thing, no doctor works 24 hours at the hospital 7 days a week. There are shifts for a reason. They might be 12 or 14-hour shifts, but at the same time, there are other people there. If you are the only person, that is a conversation about safety and about coverage and about quality of the job that you're doing and life, right?
So when I used to represent RNs exclusively at UCLA, we had this huge conversation about bathroom breaks. And it seems like such a, not a huge priority, not a big issue.
It's like 2
right?
p.m. sometimes when I'm like, can I pee finally today?
So one thing that kept coming up over and over and over when we talked about, enforce your boundaries, meaning take your breaks when you need to take them, the nurses would push back themselves and they would say, but my patient, I care too much. I'm not going to just walk out of the room and abandon my patient to go to the bathroom. What completely changed that mindset was showing them the actual statistics of medical errors that occurred and when they occurred based on how long that nurse had been without any sort of break, mental or physical. They were doing more harm in the long run to the patients they cared about by not caring for themselves.
I love that you said that because I've always held on to the statistic that after 55 hours per week, okay, productivity dips, performance dips, employee morale and satisfaction dips, and as well as, most importantly, errors increase. Because as human beings, we do have a limit. We do have a limit. So sometimes our boundaries are not just for ourselves, they're for the people that we care for, they're for the people that we're set out to protect. And some of the most important people that we're set out to protect are ourselves and our family, and then of course the people that we serve here. Sometimes not in that order, but many times. So we think about that which we value, we understand how it needs to be prioritized, we understand the activities that we need to engage in and what we need to do in order to prepare ourselves for when we engage in those activities, like having snacks available to you on the way home before you see your children. Does that make sense, right? Making sure that your bedtime routine is optimized for getting the best quality sleep. If you can only get 6 hours, okay, how do I make the 6 hours that I do get the best 6 hours I ever got, anybody ever got, right? Is it a 3 or a 4 or a 500 thread sheet count? Is it a cooling mattress underneath? Is it a better pillow? Is it a fan? Do I need to take melatonin? Do I need to go see my doctor? Do I need to exercise in the morning so I'm more tired by the evening? Okay, what do I need to do? Do I need to reduce blue light? Well, I'm on my phone. I'm going to need to be on my phone up until the very last second before I go to bed. Okay, fine. Can you put the orange blue filter on? Can you dim it down in terms of brightness? Can you get some blue light glasses? Okay, because I'm not going to do it. I need to see it full light. I'm in the dark. I'm in bed. Fine, get your glasses. Do what you have to do in order to protect yourself. And then utilize techniques like blocking time to do X, Y, Z, right? In addition to everything that I've said, to get the things done that you need. One thing that is a just terrible thorn in my side, and I always thought like the dragons in my life would be, protecting my son or daughter from bad people. No. Or like, the ills of society bleeding into my family. It's laundry. It's laundry. It's laundry, and it's the dishes, and it's the lawn. it is all these things that are supposed to be like no big deal that you don't think about when you're like growing up or when you're an adult that really just completely derail my entire life, right? I can do the laundry, I can separate it, I can add the softener, I can do colors and whites, and everything is good and it's dried, and then folding it and putting it away, it's over. It's over, right? If Elon Musk came out with a $20,000 robot today that would say, I'm going to make your meals, I'm going to clean the house, I'm going to fold your laundry, you got it. I'd sell a kidney. I would. Because I need that robot more than I need my kidney. Let's go. I don't care if it takes 10 years off my life. The laundry's taking 15. So I often try to do all the laundry at once. And what I've learned, it is better to block out half an hour or even 20 minutes to do one load at a time every night. Or every other night if I have to. Because what happens is once I get to a place where I'm in a routine, right, I feel good about what I've prioritized. I feel good about what I'm accomplishing. And I can spend more time on the things that are truly the number 1, 2, or 3 priorities that I have. Because while the laundry is piled up, and while the house is in disarray, and while the dishes are not done, or while the dogs are needing this or that, what's happening to me is that internal dialogue, if I don't manage it, and that's why we started with it the way that we did today, I get frustrated, I get upset, and I hear, Daddy, not now. Well, what do you mean, not now? That's my number 1 priority when I get home, and I just told them not now. With an attitude, right? With vitriol. Because they're bothering me. That's sad. So then here comes the shame, here comes the guilt. So we manage our time by putting things in blocks. I can't give an hour, I can give 20 minutes. Fine. It's better than not giving something and waiting until the weekend, ruining my weekend.
So speaking of the stories that we tell each other, I don't know where I heard, it was probably TikTok. I think I saw a TikTok about this. One way that we can control the stories that we tell ourselves is by timing things that we don't want to do. And the concept is, let's say I've just got a block, I can't get that laundry put away. And every time I think about it, I think, oh my God, that's gonna be hours of work, I don't wanna do it. So the advice was, do it one time, time yourself so that you have a realistic expectation of how long it actually takes. And the gentleman in the video said, you know, I expected laundry to take 4 hours, and it actually took me 17 minutes. It felt like 4 hours, but when you know that it's 17 minutes, you can make yourself kind of get over that hump.
Yeah, we build up, you know, things in our mind sometimes that are just not true. We make mountains out of molehills. We get anxious, and I don't know about you folks, but I get paralyzed by the amount of things I think I need to do or the amount of time that I think is going to happen. And if I don't get paralyzed, I end up giving my attention to something I don't need to prioritize so that I can still feel like I'm getting something done. It's called active
procrastination.
Active procrastination. Active and purposeful procrastination. We're getting something done, right? Like, oh, these CDs need to be organized and alphabetized. What? CDs? No, they don't. No, they don't. You've got CDs? That's not. No. Yeah, well, they're in the basement in the box, but they do need to be alphabetized. No, they don't. It's interesting that you mentioned that, though, right? So making sure that we understand fully what the tasks are that we have to accomplish by, for example, timing ourselves, right? And then remembering that many, many times when we've done something that we didn't want to do or we thought was going to be hard, many times after that we thought, well, that wasn't so bad. And oh, I did that pretty well. Yeah, that was not as bad as I thought. Does that make sense? So again, it goes back to the prison that we create, or the barriers in this case, to our performance that we put up. Any questions so far? In order to achieve what you want to, you cannot think about doing it alone. People can do things alone, and they have, and they've done great things. But work-life integration is about fluidly bringing everything together, right, so that it flows and it interacts and it combines. And if you include the people in your life, both at work and at home, and that which you want to integrate and ask for help, it's going to be a lot easier to achieve. So at work, for example, let's say that you are tired, that you are burnout, that you have a priority that is being neglected. It's okay to think about and build and develop your support system, the people that you have there, your boss, your peers, your subordinates. I am needing to prioritize this particular work activity that I have here. I need help with X, Y, and Z so that I can give more attention to that instead of this. Once that's done, what can I do to help you with what it is that you need to focus on? What can I do to help you prop up your priorities or to get back to where you need to so that everything is integrated? Your system sometimes needs to go from one end to the other, to get heavier on one side and lighter on the other, so that eventually, right, we're staying away from that word balance, but we're integrating it all together more. We integrate our work. What can someone else do for me, and then what can I do for someone else? We serve, we have our purpose, we give, and then we receive. Building your support system absolutely helps you integrate your work and your life. And at home, it's involving the people who you do want to spend that quality time with. It is much easier for us to have family movie pizza night on Friday when you have picked up your room, when you have placed your shoes where they go, when the dogs and the cats are fed, when the trash cans and the dishes are picked up. Because dad can now do other things, like getting the movie set up, making sure the pizza's ordered or the oven's on, making sure that drinks are set, right? Making the popcorn, whatever it is. Utilize the people that you have in your life and realize that you're not the only one in charge of your work-life integration. Does that make sense?
David, what would you recommend to help someone to disrupt the guilt cycle that happens when we realize we need to delegate, but we worry that it somehow is a negative reflection of us to do that? So, you know, there will be, and especially as a mom, tasks that I don't delegate because, first of all, I can do it faster, which is a pitfall I'm trying to stop doing, but second, I'm no longer super mom if I'm not doing it all. So how would you disrupt that?
That's a great question. That's a really great question, because mom guilt, dad guilt, parental guilt, perfectionist guilt, these are all real things, right? And it's something that, again, causes these barriers to happiness and fulfillment and true work-life integration. So your last question was, how do I delegate this without feeling like I am a failure, right? Like I'm not super mom, okay? The number one thing to do, in my opinion, is to really, really not think about, not even consider, to know that all you can do is your very best. And sometimes that doesn't mean doing everything. Doing your best to be your best sometimes means giving others the opportunity to develop and grow and be their best. They might not be able to do it as good as you, but how are they ever going to do it as good as you or better if they don't have the chance?
That's a very good point.
And if you connect with the fact that that is, right, even though you're giving something up, you're actually growing and developing as a person because you're attacking that negative aspect of your personality. And you can literally take comfort in the fact that, wow, I'm growing, I'm developing as I let this person do that. That's not how we clean. Oh, you're doing such a good job. Oh, good job. I'm definitely going to hit that tomorrow. Wonderful. Let's go eat so I don't have to look at it.
With that, not only are you doing that for yourself, what I try to remind myself, because I'll do the same thing, Jessica, but what I try to remember, I'm raising two girls. I don't want them to carry that same attitude.
Right.
Yeah.
And so if they don't see me do all of it and they see their dad or somebody else do something, then maybe they won't. Because my mom has now said to me, you see what your dad is, and God love the man. I'm not trying to speak ill, but my mom does everything for him. And she tells me, I created that. I did that. Don't do that. And so I don't do it as bad. I'm kind of doing it, but not as bad. And my hope is that then now they won't do it at the level. And so maybe in a couple generations, we'll have this thing down.
Sure.
But it is that kind of constant reminder, because I do that too. I'm like, I want them to look back and say, man, my mom did it all. My mom was cool, and but it's too much.
It is too much. It is too much. And here's the thing. The people that you show up for and that you care about will not be disappointed because you admit to being human.
Ooh, that's a big one. That's heavy.
Yeah, that is a lot.
Yeah.
You know when parental disappointment occurs is when, well, I almost said students. Well, they are our students. Our peers, the people in our life, our children, our subordinates, our leaders, they are the people who look at us, or we want to look at us, like superheroes, and disappointment happens when they grow up or mature or realize that we're not, that we actually are humans. The sooner you let them know that you are human, the sooner you let yourself know that you are human, you remove the trauma of that disappointment from both yourself and them. And then they can both realize, both being you and them, that there are limits, and there are healthy boundaries, and there are priorities, and there are difficulties, but we're all learning and developing together. It's advice for you to consider, because I also know that part of you, I'm not calling you out, but I know you, and I know me, I'll talk about me, that you're hearing this and you're like, that's nice, but no, we're not doing that. We're not going to do that. No, that makes sense, but we're definitely not doing that, David. Going to write it down. Do not do that. Very good. Notes. Yeah, because it's a whole different way of living. I can't do that. That's how I got here. Okay? Well, the reason you got here is because of the way that you've been living. If you want to live differently and you want to integrate your life and work the way that you really want, then you've got to live differently. That's just the way that it is. You've got to live differently and think differently and prioritize things differently and really connect with what you value and put them first, right? And do new techniques like managing your time, lowering your expectations, not your values, way different, your expectations, okay? Because there are toxic expectations.
Ooh, yeah. Yeah.
It's not therapy, but it's therapeutic, right? It's cathartic, and it's necessary, because that's also the work that helps you get to a place where you can execute on that which we've been talking about today. The last piece that I would really, really focus on is not only realizing that you are human, not only realizing what humility really is, which is an accurate assessment of who you are, but giving yourself grace, understanding, empathy, and the last piece, right? And I like using this word, and sometimes I don't like it. Forgiveness. Forgiveness, if that's how you got to think about it, for being human. I would actually prefer you accept as opposed to forgive, because forgiveness means something went wrong. There's nothing wrong with you for being human. There's nothing wrong with you for not being able to handle everything that's been going on in your life. It's just about acceptance.
And I think so many of us are sort of, whether we realize it or not, waiting for permission to do that.
I'm happy you said that.
Okay?
Because you don't need anyone's permission except for the permission that you give yourself. But let me give it to you. You all have permission to accept yourself and accept what you're capable of doing and accepting that you are growing, that you are a work in progress. It will never be finished. You will never be perfect, and that's okay because you're human, and the more honest and humble we are about it, the more freedom and peace we can experience while we integrate our life. Because out of everything that we've been talking about and how to do it, it always comes back to being free and to feeling the peace that comes along with that freedom. There's a quote that I think of when I talk about this stuff, and it is only when we've lost everything that we are free to do anything. And many people often think about, well, obviously you're talking about losing your job and your house and your marriage and the people in your life, the money, things that held you in place as a productive member of society. Now we can be free to mess things up or to commit crimes or to say things that we want to say things to people. That's not what I'm talking about, right? When we've lost everything that is the negative way we think about ourselves, about what we do, about what we're able to accomplish, then we are free to do anything. So, it's deep stuff. We have questions? We have comments?
I have a few comments on here.
Please.
Christina said, in my opinion, boundaries are freedom, not limitations. When we set boundaries, we self-reflect on what we want to allow in our life and what we don't want. That in itself is peace of mind.
Can you read that again a little bit louder? Because that was awesome.
Boundaries are freedom, not limitations. When we set boundaries, we self-reflect on what we want to allow in our life and what we don't want. And that in itself, is peace of mind.
And freedom. I'm free from that which my boundary is protecting me from. That's good. That's really good.
And then Callista said, you learn more from mistakes and errors than successes in life. You have to give others the opportunity to learn. And I would add to that on my own personal understanding of this is like giving others the opportunity to do other things and delegate, whether that's personal or work life, allows me personally, with who wants all the control, or who thinks that will get it done faster, it allows me to not seek that control anymore. It kind of gives my OCD a little break.
Mm-hmm. And how does it feel when you have that break?
Amazing. And then I realize that I don't need to worry about all the little things I worry about when I want to delegate something.
And a life without worry is freedom and peace. It's important to understand that and remember that. Are there other comments? Are there any questions?
Stephanie also said, one of my biggest mantras is not to stress about the things that you can't change.
Yeah. I think of the serenity prayer, right? And it essentially revolves around that, right? Let me not worry about the things that I cannot change. I also heard, thanks to my children, a very big source of joy and stress in my life. Gotta change the way I say that, right? Master Oogway's speech on the present. You know what I'm talking about? Kung Fu Panda? Anybody? Kung Fu Panda? Great series. Wonderful movies. Number 4 just came out. It's pretty solid. I liked it. I really did. They kind of wrapped things up. I think they did Shifu dirty, but that's my opinion. They just didn't really focus on him the way I would have liked to. Anyway, the past, right, is something that we can, if we don't think about it correctly, right, causes hurt. Some people often say that not chronic depression, but depression is something that stems from what could have been, what should have been, what I should have said or done, or coulda, woulda, shoulda, right? What if, what happened, right? An inability to resolve, right, what happened in the past. So it hurts us. And the future, right, worrying about it, thinking about it, over planning for it, wanting to control it, right, causes anxiety, causes us fear, causes us anger. And again, the past can do the same thing. But the present is ours to experience and to mold right then and there. The present we are in control of. The present is now. It's not the past, it's not the future. And really, it is the only thing that matters, right? And it's a point of potential. That's why it's a present. We can be free. We can have peace. So, if we are to integrate our work and our life, we think about the freedom and the peace that we can have by writing down and having clear in our minds what we value, using that as a foundation to create a list of our priorities. The priorities that we have are then supported, right, and given the quality over quantity, time that we need by the activities that support them. And the activities that we support them are therefore then supported by the boundaries that we set for ourselves that we demand we respect so that others respect them and can't get through them. And finally, when we do this, and we utilize techniques like managing our time by blocking it off, by getting the most out of small bursts of this time that we need, we allow ourselves to experience the freedom, the peace, the joy. And if we share this with people by developing our support network and making sure that everybody's on board and that they're informed and we're transparent and vulnerable with everybody in our circle about what we want to achieve and why and how and what, we have this upward cycle that lifts us up and integrates our work and life a lot easier than the downward cycle. Master your thoughts, and remember that thoughts create reality, and you will master your present and create the present that you want. That's all for today. Thank you so much for coming here and being with us. We appreciate it. Let us know your thoughts. Please fill out the evaluation that will be coming your way. Let us know some comments, some suggestions, what you want to hear. And please know and remember that Human Resources and CHOP, yeah, K-pop, yeah. CHOP is here to serve. We're here to help. We're here to help you reach your potential. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for coming, folks.
Yeah, thank you.
We appreciate it. Oh, this was the room anyway.
Oh, that's a nice pen, though.
Okay.